In today's class, we are going to discuss about offenses against children. As we know that there are offenses against human body, offenses against property, offenses against state, etc. Offenses against children have gained special attention not only from the national stakeholders but also from the international stakeholders. All credit goes to Child Rights Convention, Geneva Convention, etc. So, the child, basically, the concept of child is defined under Section 212 of the JJ Act, which says that any individual who is under the age of who is under the age of 18 can be considered as child. Now, this definition basically comes from the concept of child under the Child Right Convention and also under the Beijing Declarations. Child again can be divided into two categories: child in need of care and protection, that is those children who have been abandoned, those children who are victims, those children who are neglected, or those children who have been exposed to certain kinds of danger, etc. They can be considered as child in need of care and protection, which has been explained under section 2 subclause 14 of the JJ Act. Next is child in conflict with law, section 2 subclause 13 of the JJ Act. This includes those children who may have violated the law, or who may have been accused of violating the laws, or who may have been found to have violated the law because of some external factors. For example, if they have been used by some criminal gangs, etc., and they are living with the criminal gangs, they are also performing some criminal activities, etc., they may be considered as child in conflict with law. Now we are going to discuss about the types of the offenses against children. As we just saw the types of children, there are basically two broad types of offenses against children. One is non-sexual offense, the other is sexual offense. For non-sexual offense, it can again be divided into three broad categories, even though this categorization is not exhaustive and it can be again extended, but again for our understanding, I have categorized it in three broad categories. That is pre-birth, that means before the birth. And before the birth, we have seen that there are certain kinds of offenses. For example, prenatal sex determination. This is something which is region specific, because if you see from the Indian perspective, prenatal sex determination is an offense in India, because on the basis of that there can be lots of female feticide can be there, or for example the child may be born with some defects, etc., because the mother may not be given nutritious food, etc., but that can also be considered as an offense against the child. We generally know it as offense against the unborn child. And the other is feticide, that is section 315 basically explains what is feticide, that is preventing the birth of the child, etc. Section 316 of the IPC discusses about the punishment. The next category is basically kidnap, abuse, neglect, etc. Even though there is a tinge of flavor of the sexual offenses also, but we may consider this as non-sexual offense. So in this, we would get to see kidnapping and abduction of minor children, and the sections can include or involve sections 363, 364, 364A, 365, 366, 67, 68, 369 of the IPC, which speaks about different kinds of offenses related to kidnapping and abduction and punishments thereof. Now these can happen for both female and male children. Next is exposure and abandonment. What is this exposure and abandonment? Most of the times we do get to see that when the children are born, when the babies are born and they are not wanted, So in such cases, the parents might leave, or one parent might leave the child, on the streets, or they may neglect the child, or they may just leave the child on some hazardous place like bush or jungle area, etc. So in all such cases, section 317 of the IPC comes as a rescue statute for such kind of children, because this particular provision penalizes parents who does this parent who does this particular act of exposure and abandonment of children. Abatement of suicide of child, section 305 of the IPC. And in several cases, we do get to see that the child, especially the teenagers, they might tend to commit suicide. They might also commit suicide, etc. So this abatement may happen from different units. For example, the teachers. If the teachers scold the child in a very unruly manner, in a very illegal manner, then the child might think of committing suicide, etc. Or for example, we have seen, for example, if you remember the blue whale game. So in such cases also, we did get to see that the abatement to commit suicide was there. Many other situations are there, even if the child is scolded or bullied by the peers. In such cases also, the child may try to commit suicide, etc. Corporal punishment to children by schools, guardians, etc. This is actually covered by JJ Act, Section 82. Not only that, certain IPC provisions may also be taken into consideration, especially Section 305 IPC also, if because of that particular punishment or shaming or slamming of the child tries to commit suicide. Use of the child by militant groups. Such kinds of children basically may fall within the category of children in conflict with law, because they do not have the maturity to understand that what for they are being used. Now here we do get to see that even children above the age of 16 but under the age of 18 may also be groomed to join the militants, or for example the terrorists, etc. In certain cases we also have got to see that children below the age of 10 years or below the age of 12 years, they are also being used by the militants, etc. So in all such cases, that has also been considered as an offense against the children, and that has been addressed by section 83 of the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection Act. Then obviously physical torture, etc., that also has been considered as an offense against the children, and this is under section 85 of the JJ Act. The speciality of this section is that this is specifically applicable for the specially abled children or the disabled children. Next, we move on to the third category, that is offenses against specific child rights. These offenses, again, these can be a little bit of sexual offenses as well as non-sexual offenses. What are these kinds of offenses? For example, prohibition of child marriage, so that the children, they should not get married before they turn 18 and 21, even though we do understand that nowadays the courts and the other stakeholders, they're also thinking about bringing a uniform age for the children to get married, but again, as the present statutes say, prohibition of child marriage, that means below the age of 18 years, if the child is, especially the female child, they are forced to get into the marriage, or they entered into a marriage without understanding the consequences, etc. We do have the statutes, and it can also be considered as offense against the children. Child labor prohibition, because we do get to see that there are lots of child labor related cases that keep on coming back. So to prohibit child labor and also to punish those parents or the stakeholders who are using the child labor for their industry, etc., this particular statute is there, that is Child Labor Prohibition Regulation Act. And obviously offenses against right to education. In this, we can basically use several constitutional provisions. We have also seen that there are right to equality, that can also be used, and also right to education, Article 21A of the Constitution, that is also one of the prime rights for the children, especially for right to education. So right to education can be hampered for different reasons, for example like child marriage, or for example child labor, or for example some kind of abandonment, neglect, etc. So all these statutes can holistically be considered for punishing the persons who are causing the child to not to receive the education, especially the basic education. Now we go ahead for discussing about some important case laws, and after that I will go on for discussing about sexual offences. So some important case laws that we did get to see in the past: People's Union for Democratic Rights versus Union of India, AIR 1982, SC 1473. So here, the Supreme Court basically observed that there is a clear breach of Article 24 of the Constitution when the children below the age of 14 years are employed for construction work. As we know that this is something which is unorganized sector, and here children below the age of 14 years are employed because they are cheap laborers, and the Supreme Court in this case has very clearly mentioned that if any construction worker or any stakeholder, they are engaging the children, this can be considered as an offense against the children. Further, you will also get to see that JJ Act itself also says that if any stakeholder gets to see that children are being employed, child labor is being encouraged. Even the Child Labor Prohibition Act also says so, and if it is not reported, that can also be considered as a punishable offense. Bandhua Mukti Morcha versus Union of India is another landmark case where we did get to see that the employment of children in the carpet industry, this has also been considered as engaging the children in the hazardous work, because the dust from the carpet industry, from the carpet, etc., that may cause a long impact on the lungs of the children. MC Mehta versus State of Tamil Nadu. So this is a 1996 case. The Supreme Court gave the direction to the government to eliminate child labor, and also the Supreme Court gave the direction for conducting surveys, for creating awareness, etc., against child labor. Independent Thought of in India, Independent Thought versus Union of India, etc. This case basically speaks about prohibiting and also penalizing marriage of children below the age of 18 years. Now, as we have seen that section 375, 376 basically had a clause which actually spoke about having some kind of marital sex with the brides who are under 18 or under 16. And there was a confusion when POCSO came up, because POCSO stated that any child, irrespective of whether she is a married or not, female child especially, any child who have been sexually violated, that means penetrative sexual harassment or penetrative sexual assault has happened, that child can be considered as a victim. But when we saw it from the perspective of section 375 IPC, read with section 376, there was a little confusion that whether it should be considered as a legal sexual connection, or an illegal sexual offense. So this particular case made everything to sleep at rest and stated that no, any child marriage, any sort of sexual relationship with any child which is against the welfare, against the physical well-being and also mental well-being of the child, is considered as a sexual offense against the child, and the POCSO Act must be getting the prominence and not necessarily the rape law, that is section 375 IPC. Again, we do get to see some other kinds of offences which have also been addressed by the laws. That is, for example, procuration of minor girls. Section 366A IPC speaks about that, and these are again with some tinge of sexual offences. These may happen. Importation of girls from foreign countries, which are connected with the child sexual abuse and also child trafficking rackets. These kinds of offences are basically addressed by these international documents also. And in our domestic laws, we do get to see section 366B IPC. This also speaks about importation of girls from foreign countries, buying of the minor girls for prostitution, which is again connected with child rackets, selling of the minor girls for prostitution, etc. All these things are considered as offences against the children. Now we take up the concept of, or the topic of, sexual offences against children. Now, sexual offences, as we know that the basic law that after this Independent Thought of India, the basic law which addresses sexual offences against children is POCSO Act, that is Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. So under this, we do get to see three main kinds of offences: penetrative sexual assault, and sexual harassment of children, and cyber sexual offences. So first I will take up penetrative sexual assaults. As we do get to see, sections 3 and 4 of the POCSO Act discusses about penetrative sexual offense and punishment for the same. Now we all have heard about Kailash Satyarthi Bachpan Bachao Andolan, whereby it was very clearly mentioned that penetrative sexual assault does not necessarily happen through the private parts, that means through the genitals area or the anus etc. of the children, but even the boys also, male children also can be victims of sexual assault, penetrative sexual assault. So section 3 and 4 of the POCSO Act addressed this. Section 4 basically discusses about the punishment of penetrative sexual assault. Section 5 and 6 of the POCSO Act, basically section 5 specifically speaks about aggravated penetrative sexual assault. Aggravated penetrative sexual assault can also include gang rape, can also include rape or penetrative sexual assault by people or by person whom the child had trusted. For example, blood relatives, or for example the guardian, fit guardian, or for example the school authorities etc., or for example the medical examiner, the doctor etc. And in such cases we do get to see section 6 prescribes the punishment, where we did get to see that the death punishment had been considered as the ultimate punishment. Next is sexual assault and harassment. Now sexual assault basically can be non-penetrative sexual assault, and harassment has been considered as not that heaviest offense, but it may amount to petty offense to serious offense. Generally I would rather say it may be considered as the serious offense. Now sexual assault can also include non-penetrative sexual assault in the sense molesting the body or touching the private parts, or hitting the private parts of the body of the child etc. Section 7 and 8 of the POCSO Act basically addresses non-penetrative sexual assault, where penetration does not happen, but there are certain kinds of offenses, for example pressing the body parts of the child, or for example pressing the soft body parts of the child, threatening the child for penetrative sexual assault etc. These might all be considered as under the the offense of sexual assault. Section 9 discusses about aggravated non-penetrative sexual assault, and the stakeholders, the perpetrators would be the same like the aggravated penetrative sexual assault, that means on whom the child may trust, or for example the police personnel, the military personnel etc. And section 10 goes ahead for discussing about the punishment for non-penetrative sexual assault, aggravated non-penetrative sexual assault. Section 11 and 12 of the POCSO Act, 11 especially, discusses about the sexual harassment of children, which includes grooming of the children for committing sexual assault or penetrative sexual assault etc., cyber stalking etc., or even for example showing pornography etc. All these things may be considered as sexual harassment of children. Section 12 basically discusses about the punishment for sexual harassment. The next thing is cyber sexual harassment. Now there can be different types of cyber sexual harassment, but very briefly, POCSO Act discusses about these things under section 13, read with section 14 and section 15. Section 13 speaks about using child for pornographic purposes, and this may include sexting. This may also include coercing the child for acting something like a child porn star etc., or even voyeurism, that we have seen that in the Indian Penal Code it has been addressed under section 354C. Section 15 basically discusses about storing of child porn contents. Information Technology Act, on the other hand, also addresses child pornography through section 67B, which also punishes creation, communicating, using children for child pornographic related contents etc. Thank you.